What's up, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas right here, back on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Another episode, an exciting episode, as the Buffalo Bills announced yesterday that they have re-signed linebacker Matt Milano for a 4-year deal, $44 million with $24 million guaranteed. Breaking it all down, I was on the Bills Brawl with Charlie Gross on Wednesday, and I stated something to the tune of, I did not expect the Buffalo Bills to be able to get this done. So when I heard that the Bills got this done, I was pleasantly surprised. Prioritizing the salary cap. The salary cap is a top priority for each and every NFL franchise this offseason. We're obviously in an unprecedented time. The NFL salary cap goes from $198 million to $182 million, and the Buffalo Bills had to figure out what ways they could finagle their money. Who could they cut that could bring them cap space? Who could they cut to make room in their salary cap to extend some of these players? Top priority number one, obviously, was extending Matt Milano for Brandon Beane and company, and they did just that. John Brown was gone. That put some cap space back in the wallet of Brandon Beane. That put some cap space back, letting go of guys like Quentin Jefferson. Vernon Butler agreeing to restructure his contract. Mitch Morse agreeing to restructure his contract. That put some cap space back into the building of One Bills Drive. And they were able to extend Matt Milano on this 4-year deal for $44 million with $24 million guaranteed. And breaking down the contract, as far as what the cap hit is for 2021, I'm pleasantly surprised that the base salary of Matt Milano's contract is close to $6 million. Which is a bargain for a player of his caliber and a bargain for a player that most people thought, will we have a chance at re-signing him? I was cautiously optimistic. I can't say I was overly optimistic at the, chances that the Bills would be able to bring him in. But man, this was an awesome moment for Bills fans. This was a moment that, I didn't see this coming. And to say that I'm shocked, I posted my quote on, the Bills bringing him back, that I was shocked to see the news. But simply put, my opening statement within, this announcement is simply, I am shocked that the Buffalo Bills got this done. It shows how different the culture is here now. The culture has completely changed. We're in uncharted territory, as I've said, the last few months now as Buffalo Bills fans and as an organization, that you have players that have played here. They see what we have accomplished thus far, and they see what we have built, and they want to finish what they helped start. And Matt Milano was ultimately one of those guys. Matt Milano could have tested the market, and he could have got a lot more money than what he got. Whether people feel that the Buffalo Bills overpaid Matt Milano on this restructure, on this re-signed extension, that's neither here nor there. Matt Milano could have tested this market. He could have got more money than what he actually got from the Buffalo Bills. And he decided, I'm going to stay put. I know this defense. I know this team. I know this city. And he decided to stick around. Big props to Matt Milano. Not many players do that in this day and age of the NFL, and Matt Milano did. So that was a classy move on his part to agree to stay here and to commit to Buffalo long term. So my next question is, what does this mean for the rest of the Bills offseason? What does this mean for the Bills moving forward? A ton of NFL mock draft analysts said that the Bills would be in line to take a quality linebacker in this draft due to the fact that they wouldn't have Matt Milano on the roster anymore. And now that Matt Milano is back, and now that Matt Milano is here to stay, obviously linebacker is not really as much of a priority. Maybe the Bills target a linebacker in the middle rounds, but it wouldn't be a position that they have to target in the first round. It would be a position that they might have to target, in the second, third, fourth, fifth round, which they drafted Matt Milano in that fifth round a couple years back. So I think that this changes the Bills' draft plans drastically, knowing that they have a long-term commitment from a linebacker that they really had hoped that they would be able to rope him in and bring him in and bring him back. They bring him back. He's here to stay. And what positions could the Buffalo Bills be targeting here in this upcoming NFL draft? And I think a hot topic among Bills Twitter right now is running back. And I'm here to tell you that any chance I have, whether it's on this show or any show that I do a guest spot on, I'm going to tell Bills fans that the thought process of our running game, I think, is very misunderstood right now, extremely misunderstood. I'm not going to go as far to say that Devin Singletary and Zach Moss are the next Emmitt Smith and, Walter Payton. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I think there is untapped potential between Devin Singletary and Zach Moss that's a facet of this offense that Brian Daboll has completely missed the boat on thus far. And that's a top priority moving into this 2021-2022 season that needs to be addressed. How, not the running backs, not the players themselves, but how can we establish our own run game with who we already have? And so far, we haven't been able to do that. And I think that, rather than saying Travis Etienne or Najee Harris or one of those guys, if you take one of those guys in the first round, that doesn't exactly solve what the actual problem is within this Bills running game. To me, what the problem is within this Bills running game is that the run blocking specifically was poor, especially at the guard positions. Brian Winters left a little bit to be desired in the run blocking department. Finding what the true fit is for Cody Ford, whether it's at guard or tackle, is a big question mark on this Bills team. Maybe one of the biggest question marks that the Bills actually have as an organization right now is, where does Cody Ford actually line up? And then in terms of the tackle position, now that you have re-signed Matt Milano to the deal that you did, what's going to happen with guys like Darrell Williams, who signed a one-year deal with Buffalo last offseason and I thought was fantastic for this Buffalo Bills team? Do they bring him back? Do they make that happen? Or do they move forward out to tackle, bring back Feliciano at guard? There's a ton of options there, a ton of different directions that Buffalo could go when addressing those questions. But they got to address those questions and answer those questions with decisions, and they will have to do that sooner, much, much sooner rather than later. So throwing that out there, that to me, it was not necessarily that Devin Singletary was inefficient. It was not necessarily that Zach Moss was inefficient. It was that the Bills' run blocking was very poor in comparison, especially to the pass blocking abilities of this offensive line. And I think that there needs to be some reinforcements there, whether it's added depth via the draft or coming up with the right decisions on some of the players that I've mentioned, Darrell Williams, John Feliciano. Where will Ford stack up? Is Brian Winters somebody that you want to bring back? If it were up to me, probably not, to be quite honest. But, there are some decisions there that this Bills franchise has to make that will somewhat paint the picture of what they do come draft time. And I understand Travis Etienne and Najee Harris are two really good running backs in this class, and I think that they have intangibles that make them exciting additions to this particular team. But I think that it won't really improve the situation if you don't address the run blocking ability. You could get Travis Etienne, you could get Barry Sanders behind a poor run blocking offensive line, and he's not going to be as effective as he was. You guys get the point. I think that the run blocking inability in the run blocking department of this Bills offensive line is glaring. And when you go back and watch some of the games that took place this past season, you guys will see that. I got them all on my DVR. I've watched bits and pieces of them, mostly on the offensive side of the football. And for as efficient as this offense was in the passing department, the run blocking and the running game of this Bills team was extremely poor, and it's something that has to be addressed. And let's just say, okay, we bring in Travis Etienne, we bring in Najee Harris. If they address this twofold and they bring in a running back as well as address the run blocking deficiencies in this offensive line, I will be happier than a kid on Christmas morning. If they just address both and establish that both of those areas are areas of need for this team, I will be thrilled if that's what takes place. But, we'll have to wait and see. That's what makes this offseason so entertaining, especially during this particular time of year. We're right before free agency begins. We have a few stories that have broke out. Cam Newton is re-signing with the New England Patriots for a season. Mark Ingram signed with the Houston Texans yesterday. So, we're really, these are water in the bucket, drops in the bucket agreements that are made by these players with these teams. We're really going to start to see the wheels turning and the wheels set in motion once the new league year actually opens. We'll see what happens. But, I'm excited that they were able to get this done. I will say that, for all my criticisms of Milano and some of the bad weeks that he had last year, I will say that he was injury riddled last year. He had tons of injuries throughout the season. We don't know necessarily what moments throughout the season was Milano actually healthy. We just don't know. Only the team doctors and people are, within the organization are privy to that information. But we had heard that he was hurt obviously at the start of the year. He comes back. They say that he's healthy, but I don't know if he was actually healthy until late in the season. And by then, you're coming back healthy late in the season. Your feet aren't exactly wet in terms of being able to be accustomed to playing at that high of a level. That late in the season, your body's not in the kind of, I guess, mental mindset or physical mindset, physically prepared to be ready at that point in the season. So I think that there were a few reasons why Milano was just not as effective as we would have liked him to be, in 2020. And I'm hoping that, he's a healthy player in 2021. The healthier Matt Milano is, the healthier he is as a player on the field. I think that this Bills team can make that much of an improvement to get towards that Super Bowl. The window is of opportunity is open. Kansas City, they cut two of their tackles yesterday to save some cap. And I will say, too, to kind of end the show, Dak Prescott's contract was something that took me by surprise, not in the sense of the dollars and cents, but in the sense of, well, if Dak Prescott's making that much money, Josh Allen is going to be making around that much money. Maybe not, somewhere close to that. We'll figure that out when the time comes. But, that is something that needs to be addressed as well, whether it's at the end of the offseason or, within the free agency period. Brandon Beane has alluded to it. Josh Allen has to be extended. Josh Allen has to be re-signed, and I'm very curious to see what that deal actually looks like once it comes to fruition and how that deal could potentially impact the Bills positively or negatively. That's a storyline that will continue to flourish as the weeks and months go by. I'm Ryan Thomas. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Bills re-signed linebacker Matt Milano for 4 years, $44 million with $24 million guaranteed. Folks, you can find the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, as well as YouTube. Subscribe. Greatly appreciate the love and support. Facebook, like the page. Stay tuned for more, and go Bills.